My favorite quote that I've been seeing lately is don't be afraid to be seen trying. And that trying period where you're just going for it and you don't know if it's going to work out, you're sort of throwing spaghetti on the wall, that period is so transformative for you because you will learn that whatever idea you have that you are trying to bring to life, it requires you to remove your ego from it. My messaging has to be very intentional because what I don't want to do with the Color Connect is make people feel defensive of like it's a us versus them kind of mentality. But it's not that. It is just, I am paying attention to the fact that the state of Black women in corporate America is really bad right now. Black women are committing suicide in corporate spaces because of the bullying that they face, or Black women are getting underpaid in their roles or being forced to step down from leadership positions that they have earned because of their race or because of targeted attacks towards them. So at this stage, it's really important to invest in our younger generation who is going to be heading into leadership spaces and sort of preparing and equipping them for what they may experience as they grow in their career. Corporate America is not designed for Black women to win. It's just not. And rather than have sort of a victim mentality, it is how can we come together to figure out how we can still get ahead despite these barriers that we have.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Foranbi, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. Today, I have the honor of having Mia Williams on the show. She's an entrepreneur and career influencer. She currently serves as the CEO for the Colors of Her Success, the #1 resource for community for Black women navigating their early stage careers. So that was just a brief snippet about you, Mia. But how about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Yeah. Oh, hi, everybody. My name's Mia. I am a speaker, a career influencer. I care about all things helping young people best navigate their career, but also build really powerful networks that help them get ahead. And I am also the founder of the Colors of Her Success, which is a platform I started to really bridge the knowledge gap between women in leadership and the young women hoping to follow in their footsteps. And this fall, we're launching the Color Connect, which is the first private networking membership for Black women in corporate. So if I had to sum myself up, I would say that I am a connector. I am really good at connecting with people, but I'm even better at helping people connect with each other.
That is really powerful. And I know we're definitely going to talk more about the Color Connect, but I want to stick on this part of you connecting with people and helping people connect with others. Is that something that you realized more recently, or how did you know that you're really good at doing this?
Yeah, I think, in my 20s, I've been really intentional about building my network. And so with that comes just the art of curiosity and being curious about people, no matter where you come from, no matter your background, just getting to know you on a human, personal level. And I love that. I find that my friends and people who are around me feel like they can be themselves. Like they don't have to be anything other than their rawest, purest form of themselves, which is a really special quality because I feel like so many times we're putting on a front or being a version that people sort of expect us to be and what's normal. And like, I'm a girl where it's like, girl, just be yourself. And so I have that skill in terms of connecting with people. I love getting to know who you are at your core. But then I realized when I started hosting networking events and really going full force with Colors that I built this network, but what is it to have a network where if you can't really connect the people in your network? So I'll meet someone in college and then meet someone on my professional journey and be like, oh my gosh, you would love this girl I went to school with. And so I'm very intentional about like getting the people together who I know really would benefit from each other or really like each other based off of your values, your goals, if you're like-minded. So that has been really successful. And when I'm bringing people together, especially people I intentionally know would get along, and then they do get along, it's like, okay, this is my thing. I love
Yes.
giving people the opportunity to just meet somebody.
Yeah, the whole idea of connecting people, I think is really important from what you said, and how you're able to see like, hey, this is someone that I think you'd be a good connecting point, and then when you actually see that into fruition, I think that's really powerful. So I'm curious, is that something that you did a lot in college? Because I think you started at Colors of Her Success while you were in college, right?
Yes, I did, but no, I was not doing that. I didn't
Oh,
realize,
really?
yeah, I didn't realize that that was my thing until I got out of college and was going to these different conferences and networking opportunities and just really building my network in different areas that I felt like I was sort of collecting people. Like every person I met, it was like, ah, okay, you're interested in this, and this is what you like. And then later on in my journey, I would meet somebody else who was interested in that same thing. But in college, I worked at my school's career center, and so that gave me my interest in professional development. I would call myself sort of a professional development nerd back in undergrad. My campus job was reviewing people's resumes,
Oh,
helping
wow.
them do their cover letters if they were interested in LinkedIn, giving them just like the basics of how to get started. And what I learned was that I was really good at helping make professional development relatable to a younger generation, because it's not the sexiest thing to talk
No,
about
it's not.
resumes.
It's
Nobody
not.
likes that stuff, but I just found a way to really make it hit home with people by saying things like, you know, your resume is how you'll make the six figures. It's how you'll be able to live the lifestyle that you see for yourself. It's sort of like your ticket. And that seemed to really resonate with people. And so my focus in college was really just on the professional development tip. But then when I graduated is when I really started that networking avenue and really understanding what a powerful network can do for you in your career and even in your personal life. Networking isn't always professional. And I just really enjoyed doing it. So those two skills together sort of helped fuel the Colors of Her Success, because it was like, you have the professional development side, you have the networking side, and you also have this interest in powerful or successful women. Like, how can you sort of concoct all of this into a thing? And so that's where Colors came from. But in college, I was not thinking like that at all.
Okay. Okay. So you would say there's probably hope for someone who is in college or maybe not in college and they don't feel like that way now. That doesn't mean that they can't start to do this.
Yeah, I think college is a great time, but it's not, I don't think everybody figures it out in college. Like, some people do, and some people know exactly what they want to do and where they want to go. I think I had an idea of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go based off of my major, but I allowed myself to explore, and I allowed myself to just be open to whatever was available versus just sticking to one track. So if anybody's in college right now and feeling like, what is next for me? Am I on the right path? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I always encourage them to just explore, like, give yourself permission to just explore and see what's out there. And there is no right way, you know, there is no right path for it.
No, I'm really glad you said that. Really talk about exploring, because I do a lot of stuff with STEM students specifically, and I feel like them more than other people are more like stick like, I want to go into engineering, I want to go into science, all these different things, and they can kind of get tunnel vision on it, seeing it just one way. But like, even the perfect example is with myself, with the experiences I've had, and even the fact that I do podcasting and speaking now, is that you don't have to just choose one thing. You can go after your passion, and as you work on it and develop it, it just, things happen. And it, like, a lot of times people think luck is just things randomly happen, but a lot of luck is just stepping out there and doing things. And it seems like luck, but it's because you're putting that work in, and then things come your way, you can recognize it and then walk in it.
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice to college students is always give yourself the permission to change your mind. Like, you don't have to, because you said you were going to do something. Let's say you're somebody who thought you would be a nurse and you spent most of college doing the course and prep work for nursing, but then you get to your residency where you're trying and actually implementing the things that you learn and you realize, I don't really like this. Like, I don't like the feeling of going into work like I thought I would. I don't enjoy this work like I thought I would. You have the permission to change your mind. It's okay. And there is no one set path that you have to follow. And I think we need more permission in that, because society likes to push a like one track sort of mindset, but you can dibble and dabble in different things and really explore what fits for you and what brings you joy and fulfillment.
Yeah. So talking about like dibbling and dabbling in different things, were there stuff like you either studied in college or experienced in college that kind of led you to colors of her success? Or kind of talk me through, Mia, like before getting to college, like what you did in college, developing colors of her success, and even to now.
Yeah. So a fun fact about Mia is that I was the most average student you would ever meet back in elementary school, middle school, high school. I did not take AP classes. I scored very average on my SAT scores. I didn't play a sport. I wasn't very involved. And I think for me, I had sort of a lack of confidence in terms of what I could really do, because when you're growing up, your sort of success barometer is how well you perform academically. And what do you do if you're sort of just normal? Like, I wasn't a bad student, but I also wasn't like straight A's. Like, I was definitely honor roll, A's and B's kind of thing. But in college, I don't know. I just wanted more for myself. So I started exploring confidence and the idea of confidence and what it takes to really feel good about who you are and what you contribute to the world. And I started binge watching Scandal my freshman year of college. And I was introduced to Olivia Pope. And that changed so much of my psyche, because I had never seen a Black woman be so powerful and be the most prepared in the room, or the one who everybody looked to for answers. And she was fly and she was just dominating. And so I was just so interested in what the real Olivia Popes of the world are like. And so Colors started as a way for me to just interview those women, like the women in my community. If I felt like, if I knew somebody had a really successful business, a woman had a really successful business, I would just interview her and put it out as articles for the colors of her success. And not really realizing that what I thought I was doing was taking their advice and giving it to our generation. But I was also adding these women to my network. Like, they were then people in my network that I had built a relationship and a rapport with, that I could tap on. And so over the years, I'm doing these interviews and collecting sort of this, I don't know, library of women who were just here to see me win. And I'm like, I love that feeling. And I was having mentors and conversations. I just never had a problem that I couldn't take to some of the women in my network and run it by them. And I felt like everyone deserved that. So I started hosting events to be able to put people in the room with powerful women, because representation is really important. And when I started Colors, it was really just about representation and being able to see women who are successful and how they got there, and learning that they also not all of them had a single track to success. It was very much them dibbling and dabbling. So for me, it was sort of my way of contributing something other than academically, like a way of challenging myself and building my confidence that wasn't academic related. And then taking this brand and just being really consistent with it, even when I didn't know what it was going to turn into. It was just like, just keep exploring it, just keep doing it, and just keep seeing where it goes. So I know that was a long answer. I hope that gave some context, but really started just out of curiosity of how successful women become successful.
Yeah. And long answers are perfect for podcasts. So I was like, keep on the long answers. But yeah, the curiosity piece, I think that's a huge thing, because that was even the reason I started podcasting, because I was doing more speaking and coaching stuff. And then I realized there's a lot of people I knew that could potentially help other people. And I was like, how do I have their voices come out? And then I came across podcasting. I was like, I don't know if that's really for me.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, like you were interviewing these women and just realizing these are conversations that need to be had, and then making those connections, building them in your network. I think that's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. Would you say what was your journey like in college and school? How would you describe yourself?
My journey was definitely one of exploration, like the one you were saying. So
Yeah.
to condense it, because I could spend the rest of this episode talking about it, was coming into college. I thought I was going to go into med school, and I studied chemical engineering as a backup. I did research all 4 years while I was in college. Thought I was going to go to grad school. Didn't go to grad school. Had industry experience. Ended up working in industry. And right after college, really created like a network of alumni of a grant from the National Science Foundation, helping underrepresented people in STEM. And so there wasn't even an official organization. It was just a community at the time. And that since then, it was able to start that as a nonprofit, and then spun off a different nonprofit, and then created IncrediPaul. So it was definitely an evolution. It was just like my leadership journey, and just understanding what I believe were my God-given gifts, but not only just seeing them as gifts and just being like, well, it's just going to happen, but actually like taking the time to develop it too. Are you wondering what's next? Has everything you tried failed? Or maybe you just feel stuck? Then coaching might be right for you. The coaching relationship is a relationship totally centered on you. If you're tired of running on the hamster wheel of life and want to start to see results, reach out to IncrediPaul for help. So what are you waiting for? Go to IncrediPaul.org/coaching, IncrediPaul.org/coaching, or at I am IncrediPaul on all my socials. Or you can click the link in the bio for your free coaching session. I want to make sure you become the most incredible version of yourself.
Yeah, I love when you mention gifts, because I think um, it- everybody has a gift or gifts that are unique to them, but I think we often overlook it versus diving in and exploring it more. Um, for example, I've always been a public speaker. Now, that doesn't mean I was always a great public speaker, but what I knew was that I wasn't afraid to get up in front of an audience and talk. That was my gift. I was like, even when I was in Girl Scouts as a kid, I was always the
Oh,
MC for our events. Like that was
really?
everybody like tapped on me for that role, and I enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
so
So
for
how old were
me,
you when you were doing this as
I was
MC?
like 7, 8, 9, like just
Wow.
very early. I didn't mind. I just didn't mind putting myself out there and
Okay.
like being a entertainer in a way. And I found like there was always good feedback from it. People were like, "You're just so good at that." But the thing about a gift is you have to appreciate what gift is yours. Because for me, I was like, okay, I can stand up in front of a crowd and speak, whatever, but I'm not that great at math. I'm not excelling in other areas. So I think we spend a lot of time focusing on what we don't have rather than taking the time to say, okay, you're good at speaking. How can you hone in and sort of
Mhm.
perfect that gift and become a little bit more poignant when you speak, or learn the things that you are doing wrong when you're speaking and what you
Yes.
can be doing better. So I think if I spent more time focusing on the gifts that I did have, I don't want to say it would have I won't say it would have changed things for me, but it would have helped me get a little bit more confidence a little bit quicker because I was so focused on what I didn't have. So yeah, I just really resonated when you said that, your God-given gifts, because everybody has a God-given gift.
Yes. It's a gift for a reason. You didn't ask for it, you have it, but it's what are you going to do with it? is what it is.
Exactly. And I think there may be some people listening who think they don't have a gift and maybe their gift isn't very clear to them. Like I said, it wasn't very clear to me. It just felt like, okay, I could speak in front of people, but it's those things that you are naturally good at that where other people have to try. That is your gift. Like things that just, when you're doing it, it feels like God is just working through you and you are just doing it effortlessly. Like, it doesn't take a lot of effort. So that is my tip for anybody trying to discover what their gift is if they're feeling like I can't figure it out.
Yeah. That's a really good tip, just to understand like what comes more naturally for you. And a lot of times it's just leaning into what people are saying. Because I'm sure, like you mentioned with the Girl Scout stuff, that people were talking about how great you were at
Mm-hmm.
emceeing and all that stuff. So did it click for you then, or was there a time that it clicked like this is actually my gift, and you were really intentional about developing it?
Hmm. I think there was a period of time where I wanted to get on TikTok because I felt like I was good at speaking in public. I knew that
Mhm.
was my thing, but I wanted to see how it translated on to video.
Mhm.
And so diving into TikTok and going viral a few times because of my
Wow.
speaking was helpful to see, okay, this is something that is valuable because a lot of people cannot make engaging video content, and that's a
Yeah.
skill that I have. And
Mhm.
so that was sort of the start of, okay, this is a valuable gift. Like my starting point or my superpower is that I can communicate through digital content really
Mhm.
well. So I think that was where I started, and where I started to
Okay.
feel like, okay, this is a gift. This is something that's valuable, and you can start honing in on it and try to become better at it. But that doesn't mean that it was comfortable. I felt very lame after I posted a video. Like I remember the first time I posted a video for the Colors of Her Success. It was 2020, and we had just done this rebrand. We had just created an Instagram account because 2 years prior to that, I was just referring to it as this thing that I was doing. Like, I'm doing this
Uh-huh.
thing. It's like a website where I interview women, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to formalize it and turn it into a brand where it's like has this professional development aspect to it, but
Yeah.
also we're interviewing women. So I invested in a web designer. We had an entire rebrand. We created our brand identity, and I wanted to do a video that just introduced this thing to the world. So to me, it was really important to have a moment where, as the founder, I'm coming to this audience and telling you what we do, how we do it, and who we do it for. And I remember planning this video for like a month.
Wow.
And I remember buying a ring light and scripting it and filming it and feeling really, really proud of it. But when I posted it, I felt so embarrassed, and I wanted
Wow.
to take it down because I felt like my college friends were going to be laughing at me. And it was just like, why is this girl who, like, I
Who
look
is
back
this
at that
girl?
video now and I still
Yeah.
cringe because I remember like the panic attack I had after I posted
Mm.
it because I just felt so embarrassed about it. Um, so even though I knew that I was good at speaking in public, even though I knew that posting digital content could make a difference, I did not always feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And so that is the part of the gift that people don't really talk about, is like, yes, this is my gift, and yes, I have this business idea, but I just don't feel as comfortable. Like, I'm
Yes.
very uncomfortable putting myself
Yes.
out there. So getting through that phase of it was like a really huge moment because it was hard. It was
Yeah.
really hard to put myself out there in that way.
Yeah, putting yourself out there is hard. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of times it's really easy for people to look at someone who's posting stuff on video or like writing stuff on LinkedIn, and they're like, oh, that person is super confident. They always feel good about it. But especially when you're starting, you feel super uncomfortable. You feel like an imposter. Like, what am I saying? At least for me, I felt like should I even be the one saying these things, talking about the stuff I'm learning? And then for you to echo the same thing, I think it's important for people to hear that it's really, you need to do stuff afraid. You need to do it scared, because when you start to walk in your gift, that's when I believe God can use you, because you took the step, you did it afraid, and then you realize that what I realized is a lot of people don't really care. They're like, oh, this was really cool. Or you understand that you start to impact people, and it could start like on a small level, just a couple people saying like, oh, I really like what you were talking about, empowering women, or how you can network more effectively, or how you can, I know something you posted the other day, and how you can make sure you maintain the relationships that you have. Like, majority of networking is maintaining the relationship, not just starting the relationship. So I think those things are really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just if it's uncomfortable to start, you're probably on the right path, because my favorite quote that I've been seeing lately is don't be afraid to be seen trying. And that trying period where you're just going for it and you don't know if it's going to work out, you're sort of throwing spaghetti on the wall, that period is so transformative for you, because you will learn that whatever idea you have that you are trying to bring to life, it requires you to remove your ego from it. So I think for me, that video that I was just talking about where I like cried after because I was so
Oh,
embarrassed, it was
wow.
when I realized that this thing that I'm bringing to life, it's going to require me to remove my ego and not think about what other people are going to think about me or how people will receive what I'm putting out there. My goal is to just put it out there because that is what is best for the business. So it required me to sort of put my own personal feelings to the side
Yeah.
and go for it, no matter what anybody thought or what anybody said. And 5 years later, I would say consistency and just going for it and consistently going for it is how I was able to sort of build it to what it is today. But back then it was very much spaghetti to the wall. I'm just trying to see if it sticks and seeing what
Yeah.
works.
See what's six. No, I that whole idea of like really the consistency, it's a huge leadership trait. Like, it's IncrediPaul leadership. And I think a lot of times what people don't realize is consistency is what makes the difference. Like, there's a quote I really like, is that successful people do daily what unsuccessful people do only occasionally. And the reason why I like that quote is that I think a lot of times we feel like people who are successful are doing a lot of things, all these things all the time. But it's not they're doing a lot of things. Yes, they're doing a lot of things, but they're just consistent in the things they are doing, as opposed to other people are not consistent. And that's what makes a difference.
Man, yeah, I will say in my journey to building the colors of her success, it has only been consistency that has helped me be able to shape it to what it has been. Because if you asked me 3 years ago what it was, it's so different than what it is today. But back then, I didn't really have much direction. I just knew the different pieces of it that I enjoyed doing or that were beneficial to the business, but there was no real cohesion to it. But showing up for it and still giving it the time and attention, whether I understood where it was going or not, is how I kept getting closer to putting structure to it and being able to confidently pitch it and say, this is what this brand is. But before, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I remember there would be moments of comparison where I would see where other people's businesses are and how they're doing. And of course, comparison is a story within itself. But what was interesting is that a lot of the businesses that I was comparing myself to are not around today. They either lost interest in their business or they were, they just didn't find value in it, or they just didn't have the bandwidth to keep being consistent with it. There's a myriad of reasons why people stop, but I knew that even if I feel like I'm behind, where I will thrive is through consistency.
No, I really like that. Like, even because it's been said comparison is a thief of joy, and it really is. And I know it's really easy for me to say that, but we have social media, which is comparison 24/7, 365 days a year. So it's really hard. And I catch myself comparing, like, wait, I've been doing this. Like, why am I not getting this engagement or all this stuff? But I think it's leaning in on that consistency and continuing to do what you know you need to be doing is so key. And I definitely want to talk more about like stuff that you have been doing to cause her success, but specifically launching something new with the Color Connects. I know you have the shirt on. We talked briefly about it. So I want like talk to me more about how like what was the process of starting the Color Connect and like what can people expect from this fall too?
Oh my goodness. So the Color Connect was 2 years in the making. And it started with an idea of how can I create an intimate space that gives people representation to women in leadership, senior leaders across industries, because that representation is really important in determining how far you can go with your career. But two, connects them with like-minded women where they have the opportunity to do peer-to-peer networking, right? And then the third thing was I wanted to be valuable for their career. I want them to be able to take something tangible away that moves the needle in their career goals. So no matter if you've been laid off, if you are trying to go up for promotion, if you are looking to make a pivot but just don't really know how to do it, the Color Connect will, or this thing at the time, will provide that for you. So didn't have the name. The name came really effortlessly later down the line, but I just had the idea of just this sort of incubator of people. And what I did know was that I had been in so many groups, so many group chats, so many like communities. And what I felt was missing was a sense of intimacy. And it just, to me, all communities that I've joined had a very everybody kind of joined approach. And for me, being somewhat introverted, I don't thrive in environments where there's so many people because I start to just feel like a number. Like it's really hard to get visibility. So I wanted it to be intimate, and I shaped it to reflect my own values. I value intimacy, I value authentic connection, and I value learning. Right? So that was my 3 non-negotiables for the space. I tested it. I did a beta test pilot with a group of 120 women. I started a group chat, and I didn't promote it on social. I let it spread by word of mouth of just, if you are somebody who's ambitious and is looking for sort of support in the corporate space, join this group chat. And so I ran that for a year and had such a really positive response to it. The girls used it almost like a healthy, wholesome social media platform. Like they would come and share their wins, or they would come to the group and they would vent. We would have virtual wine nights. And then what I noticed was that women were starting to form chapters. Like there was a chapter in Maryland, and there was a chapter here in Charlotte, and there was a chapter in Houston, where the girls are getting together to do a tennis lesson or to take a pole dancing class or whatever they chose to do in order to sort of connect in a casual setting. And what also was happening was that people were getting clients for their businesses through the Color Connect. Like, oh, I'm a graphic designer. And it's like, oh, I'm looking for a graphic designer. So people are still having like client relationships from that beta test group, but also we would have coffee with executives and having opportunities to just intimately connect with executives. So I used that data to inform how I wanted to grow this platform, and then spent about 10 months of developing. So creating the structure behind it. What is it going to offer? What is it going to look like? What's the pricing structure? And then getting buy-in from leaders to be a part of it. So what executives will want to come and speak? Who can we get to serve as career coaches? And how can we stand up a coaching program so that if they're not getting the support they need at work, they can get it in the Color Connect, or get the tools they need to better advocate for themselves in the Color Connect. And it started so much from my own journey in corporate America and realizing just the barriers that I've had to face and how I have struggled navigating corporate politics. I have burned bridges without knowing that I've burned bridges, like just the hard
Oh
lessons
man.
that I've had to learn. How can we come together and sort of share those experiences so other
Yeah.
people don't have to sort of learn the hard way?
Yeah. That is such an incredible story. I didn't know all of the backstory behind it, that you just from simply from word of mouth all of this started, and then people are just naturally creating communities in their spaces. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think there was a need. There was a clear need.
definitely.
And when you're running a platform like the Colors of Her Success for 5 years, you keep hearing the same pain points. I kept hearing the same stories about how I'm the only on my team and I don't really know how to navigate that. I feel kind of isolated, or I'm introverted and being a Black woman introvert at work, people think I'm unengaged, or I'm getting docked on my performance because they think I'm
Uh,
not happy to be here, or I don't know how to advocate for myself. I know I want a raise, I know I want a promotion, but I don't know how to really share what my needs are and what I'm looking for. And so I just wanted to create a space that was intimate and allowed people to sort of open up, but also get the hands-on career support that we need in order to get ahead.
that is that's absolutely incredible.
Thank
Because
you.
yeah, no, it like I'm really speechless just how all of this stuff has come to be, and so naturally as well. Because I think I told you this, and this is just also a story of the power of networking and connection. How we met was through LinkedIn, and then you were looking for different coaches for the Color Connect. And first, I'll say I'm honored to be, I think, the only male coach for the Color Connect, to empower women in corporate to achieve what they want to do. But that was something when one a friend who works in my nonprofit sent over this, is like, you should take a look at this. Like, I think this resonates to what you would be interested in. And I saw it and I was like, this is amazing. This is needed. And so fill out the application. I know we talked uh, after application, and I could just sense your passion and authenticity, because you were talking about the authenticity, the intimacy, and I forgot the third one that you mentioned.
Um, oh, learning. That sense
Learning.
of
Yeah.
development. Yeah, that
Yeah.
career development aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely I could sense those things out. So I had, because I think there's one thing to see it on the screen or social media, but then you don't always get the same impact when you talk to the founder. And I could tell
Yeah.
that this was something you lived and breathed, and it just made me excited just to be a
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I like hearing how
Yeah.
people send it and how people share it with folks, because sometimes on social media you can feel like you're talking to yourself after a while.
Yeah.
And I was happy to have you as a coach, because I think we need that balance of testosterone. Like, it's gonna be all women. So like I'm in a sorority. I was in
Okay.
AKA in
Oh,
undergrad, and
AKA.
like
Okay.
sometimes I'm like, okay, we need some males around. Like somebody, we just need a shift in the balance of the
Yeah.
energies here. So I
Mhm.
was really happy for that piece of it, but also like I think learning can come from men in your career. And I think women sometimes only look towards women for mentorship, but it's like so much value can come from learning from a man in business, or who has these skills and knowledge that you can share. And I think there's like this TikTok going around where somebody asks like, who on this app has like a male mentor, and like it was just a really viral thread of like,
Oh
how does that
wow.
relationship work? And it works so well because I don't know, there's something, it men have a certain privilege that women don't have, and them using their privilege to sort of give back in an allyship kind of way of like, here's how you can
Absolutely.
navigate it, is really really powerful. So I feel like I always want at least one guy as a career
Yeah.
coach as we go through the cohorts for the Color Connect.
That's very powerful. This whole idea of allyship is so critical, because I think a lot of times people say like, well, there's whether male privilege or white privilege and all these different things. I think what matters is like what you use your privilege for, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
allyship is so important. It's like, yes, I understand I have this privilege, but I'm going to use it to empower others, to remove those roadblocks, to so that people can actually see what the capabilities are, and that's so critical.
Yeah, and one question that I know people have, but maybe are afraid to ask is, do I have to be black to join the Color Connect? And the answer is no. I believe in allyship, so I do hope we have non-black members and non-black speakers, but come in with the intention of we are centering black women and we are trying to uplift
Mm.
and support black women. If you can come into this space with that understanding, you're going to do great. You're going to love it because the content's valuable for anybody who's trying to
Mhm.
get ahead in their career. But
Yeah.
it is through a lens of black women are experiencing a unique barrier that most people don't face. So how can you come in and one, have a sense of empathy and understanding of what our experience is, but then help
Yes.
and support in whatever way that you can?
Yeah, the empathy I think is a huge thing. I think it's really easy to be like, well, that's their experience. Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, it is what it is. But understanding kind of like the privileged pieces, what can I do to support and really
Yeah.
understand as well? Because sometimes nothing you can do to support in the moment, but just a simple understanding goes a long way.
I agree. I agree. And I think, when I talk about this, I will say there's not a huge anxiety, but definitely a thought of my messaging has to be very intentional because what I don't want to do with the Color Connect is make people feel defensive of like it's a us versus them kind of mentality. But it's not that. It is just, I am paying attention to the fact that the state of Black women in corporate America is really bad right now. Black women are committing suicide in corporate spaces because of the bullying that they face, or Black women are getting underpaid in their roles or being forced to step down from leadership positions that they have earned because of their race or because of targeted attacks towards them. So at this stage, it's really important to invest in our younger generation who is going to be heading into leadership spaces and sort of preparing and equipping them for what they may experience as they grow in their career. Corporate America is not designed for Black women to win. It's just not. And rather than have sort of a victim mentality, it is how can we come together to figure out how we can still get ahead despite these barriers that we have. So open to allyship, open to anybody who wants to support this cause and wants to be a part of it because, the time has come. The time has come for Black women. I mean, we see it with Kamala running for president. I mean, it's
Yes.
just this time is just a really pivotal and important time for women, but specifically Black women.
Yes. I really like that one liner, the time has come.
Oh
I think
yeah.
yes, I think that's really critical, and just to lean into that and not to be afraid of it, because I think society and all these different things like try and distract us and be like, we need to focus on this and that, like, why are you doing this? But really to say like, this is something that's important, leaning into it, developing a community around it, a business around it, and the Color Connect. It's absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, and you asked earlier what can people expect, and I don't think I touched on it as much, but it is a cohort-based program. So every cohort runs for 3 months, and after 3 months, you can determine if this was a fit for you and you want to join the next cohort, or if you've gotten what you needed and you're good to go. Which either is fine. I think everything needs a start and end date, but what I have found in my research is that when people are in something for like a year, their interest tends to wean off around the 6 months mark. So I would
Okay.
rather give them a deadline of like, hey, we're here for 3 months. And if you want to keep doing it, you can, but really be intentional about the time that you are here versus letting it sort of fall on the back burner. The other thing that people can expect is just intimacy because we only allow 150 members in to the Color Connect per cohort, and that's intentional. I don't want it to be everybody joining. I want people to come in and have a dedicated 3 months to get to know and build relationships with the people in their cohort. And the
Wow.
third thing that you can expect is a new network of women, whether it is a network of like-minded peers who are on the same professional journey as you, or be it senior leaders or executives who you had no idea who they were, or probably even if you did know who they were, you wouldn't be able to secure time with them because their calendar is pretty reserved for people who they personally know, or you know somebody who knows somebody who could put you in touch with them. But ultimately, it's really hard to get time with these people without a formal introduction. So we are
Yeah.
offering that introduction to members. Like, let me introduce you to some of the women who are moving and shaking in their industries, so you can at least have some face time and visibility and ask them your questions, and in an intimate setting where you don't have to feel like I'm getting lost in the number.
Yeah. That's really powerful, and there's definitely someone I need to connect you with, because she is a Black female VP with Mars,
Oh,
and
wow.
so yeah, so and she's eventually going to be on the podcast, but she's just been transitioning and moving, so she joined
Yeah.
Mars probably less than a year ago. So I'll definitely have to connect you with her. But I know with everything that she's about, that what you're doing with this community, that she would love to be a part of it. It's just a matter of her having the time, really.
Yeah, as it is with executives, it's like that. Whenever you're working with executives, people ask how can they best network with executive women, and my advice is to always just be patient, because
Yeah.
if they have to reschedule a call 3 different times, like, just take it on the chin. Don't take it personally. It's
Yeah.
just they are as busy as they seem. They're not
Oh
doing
yeah.
it to spite you. Yeah.
Yeah. Very busy and moving and all this stuff. So yeah. So we'll definitely make the connection for sure. But we're about out of time. We shared a lot about the colors of her success, the Color Connect, talk a little bit about your background. Like, really, I still can't get over 7 years old being MC for the Girl Scouts. It's so
Yeah.
cool. But is there anything else, like, about you or what you're about, that you want to make sure the listeners know before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I'm all about relationships, right? And being able to make relationships that feel good. When it comes to networking with people, I remember having internships where they would be like, network, network, network. And it's like, okay, but like, what does that look like?
Yeah,
And it felt so
exactly.
intimidating and so daunting. And I wish that instead of network, they would have framed it as, tap into the people that you're curious about. Tap into the people who spark a
Mm,
level of interest in you, because you're going to naturally be invested in who they are,
yes.
versus just networking with people based off of their title or what they can do for
Hmm.
you. If you approach it that way, I think you'll enjoy it a lot more, because you'll start finding your people, which always feels really good.
No, I really like what you mentioned about finding your people and then tapping into the interests, because a lot of times people are like, well, I want to network with the highest person, the VP, the execs, the CEOs. I'm like, not necessarily,
Not
because
necessarily.
yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of
Yeah.
those times they're so far removed from you that it's harder for them to connect, and not always, but I feel like just connecting with people at your same level or just one step above is the best place, because I've seen it throughout my career going to different conferences. Even how I was able to start these different communities and nonprofits was because of people I met at conferences and I stayed in touch with, and then when I wanted to do this, we reached out and we were able to build this community. And that was when I was meeting them in the moment. Networking is, I didn't think like 5, 6 years down the road we were going to be starting a nonprofit together or doing all these things. But it was just from that shared interest, and like what you mentioned earlier, being intentional. That's one of my favorite words, because I feel like a lot of times we just let life happen to us. There's not a lot of intentionality behind it, but when we choose to be intentional, that's when the magic happens.
I agree. I think that if people don't take anything away from the Color Connect, I hope they can take away my level of intentionality, and they can feel that this was something that was so well thought out, and there was a lot of intention that went into it. But to your point about peers, I think I felt more comfortable networking with my peers than trying to get to the VP or the senior executives. I felt so much more comfortable starting there because it felt more natural and it felt more organic, and they have so much to offer too. Like, I think we underestimate how much our peers have to give, whether it's a template or here's what worked for me when I tried this. There's so much value in that. And I think it helps build your networking muscle, like networking with your peers, because it's on a very, it's on a way more even playing field than networking with an executive where there's a lot of pressure and like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I, it's just, it's anxiety inducing when you're trying to network with an executive and you don't really know how. So my advice is to always start with the peers if you can.
Yes, peers first. Do not overlook your peers. Those are the people that you're going to be working with, and some accelerate faster than others, and then you might be working for them someday. You just don't know.
It's like an investment in your future, because your peers are going to be the VPs one day. They're going to be the ones in the leadership positions, but just in so many different areas and industries that are different than yours. So you never know how it can be of benefit to just keep in touch with the people you meet who are at your same level.
Absolutely. You never know. Well, I want to make sure people know how to stay connected with you, because we talk about network, we talk about connection. We got to make sure they can connect with you and the colors of her success. Like, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so it's funny because normally I would say social and I would say Instagram, but actually our newsletter is the best way that you can keep in touch, because if you're on our newsletter, you're tapped into every single thing that we're doing, from events to the Color Connect applications to here's our social media if you want to follow us. So the best way to keep in touch is through signing up for our newsletter on thecolorsofhersuccess.com. I write every single newsletter myself, and I just really put a lot of thought and intention behind it. And I love when people email me back or shoot me an email and say, hey, that resonated with me. So definitely sign up for the email. And if you hear this podcast and you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message, I'm totally open to that. I'd love to know what resonated with you and how you're able to use this to your benefit on your career journey.
Awesome. So if you're watching, you saw that come across the screen. If you're listening, you can go to show notes to connect to Colors of Her Success, the newsletter, as well as the LinkedIn. But Bia, it has been so incredible having you on the show, sharing your insights. Like, I just still can't get over just how your natural ability with speaking, and then what you saw with connecting and networking has grown to what you're doing with the Colors of Her Success. Like, it is phenomenal organization, like so much intentionality in what you do, with what you have on social media, what's on the website. Like, even when you talk to me, talk to others, like everything I've seen, it's super focused. I can sense the authenticity, the intimacy, the learning that you are mentioning. It is, it's incredible is the best word to use for it.
Yeah, how ironic. I love that. It's like the kids are all right. The next generation, we're doing good things. We are trying over here. So I appreciate that. And it means a lot, because when you're so close to it and you're in the weeds of it and the day-to-day and the coordinating and the logistics, it can feel like you lose sight of the bigger picture very easily. So it's not until I do a podcast or I talk about it to other people that I'm like, oh yeah, this is, yeah, we're doing something good here. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, for all of those watching or listening, I hope you got something from Mia's story. I know you did, at the very least, to be intentional, keep connecting, keep networking, and you can be incredible. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible.